Hello, friends. How are you guys? Moses here, and today I will make this conclusion video on the 13-hour stream we had. I started out doing some, little maps and stuff with the Purifying Flame Trickster, and then I started this guy, and we've been playing for about 12 hours, 12 minutes. Characters level 80. I've done 3 labs at this point, and I just wanted to give you the guide. What's the concept behind this character, and what's the idea, what's going on, and yeah. So this is another Trickster. Trickster is a really fast mapper, really fun class, well-rounded. And this time around, I decided to go with another cast while channeling build. So I found this staff and managed to get chaos damage over time multiplier on it. It has the arcane surge and cast while channeling. And since the patch nodes pretty much, I wanted to make a cast while channeling Blight Soulrend, which is what I'm working with right now. So Blight and Soulrend. Blight is our channeling spell right here. This is level 21 Val Blight because it has a Val version. It just deals explosions of chaos. Really cool stuff you're going to be able to see. And Soulrend is the new chaos projectile. And it looks like that, pretty beautiful. Right now I'm running volley because I was doing well, dunes inside the mission of Zana. There was toxic sewers, so I changed to volley. But basically we're running ready multiple projectile instead of volley over here. And yeah, so we got the cast while channeling staff with arcane surge cast while channeling, with Blight. Blight is our channeling spell. Soulrend is our projectile that we're casting while channeling. And then support gems. The choice of support gem needs to be generally supports that will work both on Soulrend and on Blight, right? So with the exception of greater multiple projectiles, which is a obviously projectile gem and won't work on Blight, control destruction, void manipulation, and efficacy will all work on both of those skills, right? The more spell damage, more chaos damage over time, more chaos, reduced elemental. We don't do any elemental, so it's fine. And control destruction, straight up great for this particular build because it supports both of the skills. And yeah, greater multiple projectile and volley when we're in a different situation where we would need, small corridors and stuff like the toxic sewer map that I was there before. Now, castle channeling is fun and dandy, but the twist of this build comes in here with the fact that it's also a Death's Oath build, right? Since we get so much damage over time, and we're scaling all that chaos damage, I figured why not add another damage over time multiplier with Death's Oath Aura. Death Oath basically give us this level 20 Death Aura skill that will deal damage that nobody knows exactly how much it deals, but it's quite a lot, and you're going to be able to see it. Basically, you run around, and most stuff will just die because of Death Aura. It is very, very potent with, being 6 support gems and stuff. And the way that it works is gems that you will socket into the body armor will then support the Death Aura, enhancing its damage. So currently I have efficacy, control destruction, and arcane surge. Reason why arcane surge is because it's the only way to add the Death Aura, the tag duration, right? And then with duration, it also works with less duration that makes the skill have 20% more damage, right? So there is that. Void manipulation and swift affliction for more damage over time, for more chaos damage, increased chaos damage, and then the more damage from less duration and efficacy and control destruction. So this is how we're running. This is a really nice kind of opportunity because I've never played this kind of build at all, and I never also played Death's Oath. So cast while channeling with chaos spells for the first time, and Death Oath feels very, very, very strong. That's the idea of the build. We have Impresence. Impresence allows us to reserve Despair with 100% mana reservation reduction. On top of that, we're using Malevolence, which is another new support aura for chaos spells. So basically, it's a chaos aura. It gives us more damage over time for any kind of like damage over time skills, right? So for all of our chaos stuff. It reserves 50%, so we're using it in an essence form that gives us +2. And because Despair reserves 100% reduced mana reservation instead of 100% mana reservation, you know, with Despair right now, that's how it would look, right? Because it reduces the mana reservation, but we get the multiplier from increased mana reserved, so we still get to reserve some mana with Malevolence, right? But it's basically negligible. Out of 1600 life, 1600 mana, 1400 mana remains, and we are able to use Mind Over Matter to mitigate and enhance our actual effective life pool. So we do have Mind Over Matter on the tree as a defensive measure. For the rest of the gear, I did want some cast speed, so I was able to find these. Cast speed will, increase the speed in which we're channeling. It will deal more damage over time, allow Blight to stack more damage. Excuse me, I've just finished a 14-hour-ish stream and my throat is gone. So, no voice whatsoever, excuse me for that. But yeah, it was important for me to make that video right now for you guys. So yeah, some cast speed, life resist over here. Over here we got Blight Area of Effect is what I decided to go with, because it basically means, it's kind of hard to tell. Let me remove Soulrend. It's a small increased area for, for Blight itself, right? It's a small increased area, but it's noticeable. And the fact that it's noticeable basically allows me to be a bit from within safer distance from monsters, while still having being able to channel deal damage from just a larger distance. So I just felt Blight Area of Effect would be good, but of course you can get any Soulrend, additional projectile, additional damage, any Blight increased damage, whatever you feel you go with. But yeah, I did end up spending quite a lot of exalts on something that just wouldn't happen. Man, it was kind of frustrating just getting an open prefix for resist, negative cast res, and some life. That's all I wanted on this helmet. I ended up spending like 4.5 exalts on getting this roll. I was very, very unlucky with fossil crafting, but basically Aberrant plus Pristine, you shouldn't be that unlucky. I believe 10, 12, 15 attempts at most you'll be able to get a decent roll. I was just unable to get a decent roll. It just didn't happen. Until it did. 4.5 or 5 exalts later, rip. Same with the belt. I mean, that life regen, whatever, but we managed to get it work. Aberrant and Pristine for extra chaos damage, and for the life we also managed to get some strength, which is nice because it's more life, and we did in fact obviously manage to balance our resistances at 75. The ring is just a lot of resist, some life mana, and it's a fractured ring, so it has the 16 to all res, but it's just a pretty nice ring. It just has a bunch of resist. That's nothing too special about this ring, really, just life resists. And the boots are kind of special, but not quite. They are temple boots that have the chance to dodge attack hits. So they have some life, some strength for more life, double resistances, 30% movement speed, hybrid with chance to dodge attacks, which is very, very nice. And I'm happy I was able to snipe these for like, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 chaos a couple of days ago. So that's when it comes to the gear. I crafted with Aberrant Fossil this thing right here. It basically just has some life and damage over time while wielding a two-handed weapon. Damage against abyssal monsters is just there, it's whatever. Chaos damage to spells is just there, it's a small roll, kind of insignificant, but the important part is increased damage over time and a decent life roll. For the flasks, things may change. At the moment, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we'll change some stuff, but for now, seething of staunching, instant and bleed removal. We got Witchfire Brew. Witchfire Brew basically gives us the despair aura, but it's inconsistent, right? It's not always going to be up. While mapping, obviously, it's going to always be up, but against bosses, probably not all the time. And what it does do, while mapping, that increased damage over time during Flask effect is a mod that we cannot get from the aura, you know, from the amulet, but it's an addition damage over time during Flask effect that we can't get anywhere else. And then Smoke Cloud on use, which allows for blind on use, right? So blinding, good defensive mechanic. Sulfur of Heat to increase damage. Any kind of increased damage would be pretty nice for a skill like this. Of Heat, of course, to remove the freeze and chills. Adrenaline Flask over here for movement speed, straightforward, and warding for curses. We got a Chemist to reduce charges used. Sorry, we got a Chemist to reduce damage taken, fizz damage taken. That's pretty much it. For the rest of the links, I am using, as mentioned, Despair and Blasphemy to make it an aura. Despair, of course, reduces monsters' chaos with this, makes them take more damage over time. Chaos damage to hits against cursed enemies, which means a Soulrend, which is a hit, is going to add a little bit of extra chaos damage. Flame Dash faster casting. We are getting Arcane Surge in the stuff, so we're always going to have Arcane Surge up, right? So we don't need to have Arcane Surge over here with the faster casting Flame Dash. And over here, just a 4-link utility stuff. Power Charge on crit, because why not? I mean, I guess I don't really need it. It's just some stuff. I mean, I don't really need it, honestly. Over here, it's just ignore this 4-link. Calling Strike, Blind is decent. Orb of Storm seems good. Maybe Chain to be able to just blind and Calling Strike enemies. But once we get our last ascendancy, Power Charge on crit is obviously going to be useless, because our last ascendancy is going to be Swift Killer, which will give us power and frenzy charges on kill while mapping and on bosses while channeling, which is all the time, because that's how we deal damage. So we're always going to have the 20% frenzy, 20% power charge duration. Of course, the frenzy charges are going to give us more multiplier to our damage, 16%. So we don't really need this setup. It's just something I've been using. Yeah, and I don't really need power charges at this point, because obviously it's not a crit build and it's not doing anything. So ignore this 4-link currently. Again, the character just made it to maps, and we just kind of like created it, and it is 14 hours into the stream, but I wanted to give you what we have so far. Over here we got a cast when damage taken with Summon Stone Golem. Stone Golem is just until I finish lab, and then we have a free link. We're going to remove this. So gems might change, but I need to finish Uber Lab before that. Cast when damage taken with Temp Chains and Immortal Call. Now we have In Presence with Despair, and then Temp Chains from the Whispers of Doom cluster. We can apply an additional curse. Now, when it comes to the tree, you know, it's pretty straightforward. We're grabbing all the chaos damage over here, damage over time. We'll soon get into entropy over here. All the life, air of effect, some more life, some chaos damage, damage over time, some life. Over here, some life, more life and mana, mind over matter, life, mana regen, all the life here from Templar. Just going through the life node. This is path of life nodes, right? So life nodes here, damage over time, Whispers of Doom for additional curse, some chaos resist, life, and some more life. And currently the character is level 81. I will finish up 82, 3, 4, and then by level 92 I will have 4 more jewel sockets. This is a 2-noder over here. That's 1. I guess that is 2. 1, 2. That is 3. And that is 4. So that's level 92. And at that point, you know, if I choose to continue leveling, I'm thinking perhaps channeling over here. Channeling skill, deal extra damage. Or area of effect while wielding a staff will help us out a little bit. There's a small cluster with area of effect per power charge, which we're going to have 4. So there's quite a little bit of extra area of effect for our Blight, which is really decent, I think. Potentially we'll get that. Or there is another cluster with channeling over here. The thing is that when we invest into channeling, that's why I'm not so keen on that. When we invest into channeling, we're not going to buff our Death's Oath aura of death, and we're not going to buff our Soulrend itself. It's strictly, any channeling stuff is strictly going to be towards Blight, which is why I ended up not using the wonderful infused channeling support. It's an amazing skill gem for channeling skills. It just only buffs up Blight and not Soulrend, so I ended up not using it. Kind of a bummer, but yeah, for cast wall channeling it's not going to be working too well. For strict channeling skill, 100% use it. 100%. This is it when it comes to the character. So let's do a quick map. We have I don't know, again I guess we have to go to Dunes again. It's been kind of weird with Dunes, but there's an alpha. There was some sort of a thing. I think I had a temple. Never mind. Long story short, we have a Dunes, we have Alva, and we don't really care what happens because, you know, we're immune to reflect. So easy clap. Again, the character hasn't done overlap just yet. But yeah, okay. So just so you see, that's the damage of the Death's Oath. With some flasks, obviously, you know, more damage over time, and sulfur flask increases our damage. So like the build itself will work just fine, at least on the low tier maps with just the That's it actually is quite funny to see just stuff comes near you. It's like the Grim Reaper is walking, but of course we have the channeling stuff. And Soulrend is like everywhere, and like the build just feels actually quite insane and very powerful and fast, and that's exactly what I was hoping it would feel like. We have an incursion. Check this out. So Val Blight is also a thing that we can use right now, and this guy's insta dead basically. It's kind of hilarious, guys. It's kind of hilarious. The build is very strong. The combo, like just you know, the Death's Oath itself is very strong, right? But being able to also get the benefit of the entire cast wall channeling setup is pretty huge for this build, and very nice, and makes a very nice and fun, well-rounded character altogether. I'm very happy I was able to think about that idea to combine between these two things, because the Death's Oath was buffed in the recent patch. Okay, things dropped. Feels good, man. So yeah, Death's Oath was buffed in the recent patch, and what can I say? It feels very strong, and you know, cast while channeling, Soulrend, all this type of chaos build, something I never got the chance to try out, and I'm happy that now I had the opportunity to do it. So yeah, there's a matter of Val, Blight. Like, whatever you don't get to, You know, the projectiles of Soulrends are gonna get to and they're gonna destroy. And like the build feels very, very smooth. And I mean, I don't know, I've been playing the game for 2 years. I never felt like just how smooth a build like that can run. It really, really does feel pretty amazing. Where's Hillock? Oh, this guy. So that's Hillock, and he's basically insta-dead. It's kind of ridiculous. He's slowed down, he's taking extra damage. Oh yeah, important to mention, Spreading Rot applies Hinder and Withered for 2 seconds. So Wither is an effect that makes it take more damage, more chaos damage, and Hinder of Blight is an effect that we're getting just slowing down the movement skill of monsters. Obviously these, it's kind of hard to show because they have quite a small HP pool, right? So kind of hard to show, but the movement speed is slowed quite substantially with Spreading Rot, and that's a unique jewel for Blight itself. You can use 2 of them, but for me I think 1 is just about enough, and for the rest I'm going to try and get maybe maybe some other stuff like I don't know, life damage over time, chaos damage, stuff like that. One thing to note, it's not very intuitive. 2 little things in Path of Exile, you know, rarely are intuitive, but one thing about Blight is that area damage does not affect it. I don't really understand why. It's just a fact. Area damage will not affect Blight. Why? I don't know. It is an area skill, but it's not affected by area damage. So pay attention to that, and make sure that you're not investing into it. And also, added chaos damage to spells is not any kind of added damage will not affect it. It will only scale from gem levels, you know, and spell damage and chaos damage and damage over time and increased global damage modifiers like that, but not from you know things I mentioned. Area damage not going to affect Blight. So these Templar nodes right here, not going to be good at all. Yeah. Area of effect will increase the area, just not the damage. It's kind of weird interaction. This is it. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask. I'm sure I'm going to probably, I mean, I don't know. We'll see how endgame goes. Maybe I'll have a Shaper, Elder, Guardians tier 16 to show you. I'm interested to see how this character is going to fare. But yeah, again, we're just level 82 and more chaos damage over here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.